Order in the court. It's time for an opening statement. That was a lame open. I don't care. She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, first episode, a normal amount of anger. So, this is our opening episode for something that I have been both excited and nervous about because, I love She-Hulk. Almost everything that I read that is She-Hulk focused, I like a lot. I've read in specific the Dan Slott run that this is largely based on, but honestly, you go back to her series from 1989, The Sensational She-Hulk, that's great too. She's just wonderful and fun and oftentimes just allowed to be funny and put into unique situations that almost no other hero gets put into. And it's really good stuff. And I've been excited for this adaptation. I think Tatiana Maslany is a really interesting pick, and I was pretty confident that she could nail this. I have very mixed feelings about Orphan Black, but none of that has to do with her performances. So I was confident in that. Then the trailers came out, and I got a little nervous based on the CGI. Now, I don't like to completely dock something for its visual aspects when my main interest initially isn't even really in the visuals. But the thing is, a persistent mediocre visual aspect can take away some of the fun you might otherwise be having. And while I do think the final result is better than that first teaser trailer was, it's not great. It's twofold, honestly. Part of it is I don't like the style and the design on her that they went with. They went for a more athletic, sort of trimmed, muscular look as opposed to bodybuilder, which I would argue is kind of what she should be. Now, that is admittedly a matter of personal taste. And if you go through She-Hulk's appearance in the comics, the degree of exactly how muscular she is, it varies from run to run, artist to artist, and other people might have a preference for this somewhat slimmer look. I really don't, though. She's taller, sure, but she doesn't, other than the height, she doesn't bring across the same degree of just a sense of power and, oh, okay, she could actually do some serious damage that I think she should. But, as I said, that's a matter of personal taste. Unfortunately, it does lead into the second problem with the visuals. Don't worry, I'll get to the thing itself. I'm not going to linger on this the whole time. I want to get it out of the way. But the second problem with the visuals is that since she looks much closer to, for lack of a better way to put it, sort of a normal body type that we're used to seeing in film and television, it makes it a little bit more uncanny valley. Again, not as bad as the early trailers were, but definitely more so than Bruce is. Because since Bruce's proportions are so much more exaggerated, that helps pull away from it looking like it's just trying to look like a person. The exaggerated features of Bruce Banner's Hulk makes it easier to digest visually, whereas with Jennifer, they've gone for something that honestly kind of looks like a normal person could attain if they had that height. And as a result, it makes it much easier to compare with how a normal person should look, should move, how their face should work. And for me, I've mentioned this before, my eyes tend to zero in on mouths and lips, which is frequently one of the detrimental areas when it comes to trying to recreate realistic humanish faces. And any amount of exaggeration you can add generally helps. But since they went with so little exaggeration, yeah, there is a little bit of that. Unfortunately, this is something I'm just going to have to swallow. I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't matter to me. It does, because as I said, it's going to be a persistent issue across the show. So, yeah, it's going to make me enjoy it less than I would have otherwise. That said, I don't think it is going to completely kill the thing for me, so we will now move on from the visual aspects and talk story. Well, it's actually kind of hard to get a sense of the show as a whole from this episode alone. I mean, we get a little bit of a sense of the tone, but that's kind of it. So, if I'm being honest, even though I've complained in the past when shows that are coming out weekly drop multiple episodes on their premiere date, I actually would not have complained if they did a 2-episode drop here, because this is all set up in backstory. Decently handled, I'll come back to it, but overall, it's not giving me a sense of what the show is going to be. And I think giving us a more standard episode following all of the necessary information would have given me a better sense of where things are going to go forward. Now, it's not like I'm not going to tune in next week, but I think back to, say, WandaVision, which is a show I'm very mixed on, but that was one where I think it made a lot of sense to drop multiple episodes at the premiere so that you could see the way it was shifting from episode to episode and get a feel for the thing overall. Whereas if they just dropped that very first episode, I'm not sure people would have known what to make of it right off the bat. I mean, I'm not sure how much they knew how to make of it with the first couple of episodes dropped, but it did sort of ease that in a little bit. Whereas here, I think that would have helped, and I kind of wish they had. So dealing with this unto itself, this is, I think, a pretty good representation of the characters so far. You know, people will get on a nitpicky horse about, you know, the specifics of what she can or can't do, or is she figuring this out too fast, or is it this, or is it that? But look, the simple fact of the matter is that Jennifer is largely defined as being way more in control of her Hulk side than Bruce is. Has she had her more savage parts across her history? Well, yeah, but they're also her least interesting periods for the most part. By and large, her ability to just be bigger and stronger but still be herself is a big part of what distinguishes her from Bruce. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense to drag it out and make it take her a long time to get there. It makes sense to, frankly, rush it a little bit. Now, am I copping to the fact that it is a little bit rushed through all the development? Yes, I am actually going to cop to that, but I'm going to say that was a necessary rush because I am much more interested in what she's going to do now that this is her life than watching multiple episodes waiting to get to that point. So I still think it's the right call, even though I'll admit, yeah, she rushes through what was basically 10 years of development that the Hulk went through. And if that bothers you from a character perspective or a storytelling perspective, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I will say it doesn't bother me because, again, it will get us more quickly to what I'm actually interested in. I like the dynamic between Bruce and Jen. I think they bounce off each other well. They wind each other up in good ways. How much money did Cheetos give you for the product placement? Because you know what? The initial thing with the chopsticks was cute, but how frequently that kept coming up, yeah, somebody cashed a decent check. But it still works with the dynamic, and it's kind of just nice to see Bruce, you know, he's still a bit in mourning over Tony having died. So that is a nice detail to put in there. Jen rightfully pointing out that as a woman just existing in the world, her base level for having to control her anger, especially in the field that she works in, is already way higher than Bruce ever had to deal with prior to becoming the Hulk. So I do think that's a really good thing to point out. One, because, like, yeah, fair. And second of all, it gives you an indication of part of the reason why she's able to get a grip on this a heck of a lot better than Bruce was. She's used to grappling and clamping down and having a very controlled sense of who she is and who she is projecting herself to be just by existing as a woman at all and in law. So yeah, that makes sense. And I'm glad she said it plainly. I think the training montages are fun. I think they're the right balance of, you know, Bruce just trying to help, getting annoyed at her. And I don't think unjustifiably. Like, you could go, oh, he's jealous. Like, well, no, he admits that a little bit himself. He's a bit irritated that she's getting a grip on this so much faster than he is. And I don't think that's unfair. I probably would have gotten irritated if I was him. The brief period where they sort of have a fight, I thought was decently done. And the only reason I kind of want to highlight that is because the tail end in the fight when Titania shows up in the courtroom, that's garbage. That is a garbage action scene. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, it literally feels like they tacked that on at the last minute and hadn't actually planned to have it. And they realized, oh, we should end it on an action note. It's real bad. That said, in an odd way, I'm kind of most excited by the credits sequence with the art and the vibe given, you know, for what images are chosen to show the audience, and just the feel and the vibe and the song choice, I think work well. And like, that's the vibe I'm excited for going forward. And this episode is basically just all setup, but it is setup that will hopefully, because it does appear to, create the scenario that I am eager to see. I am ready to see Jennifer Walters, attorney, have to balance how She-Hulk fits in her life because no one else is going to ignore it. She would like to, but no one else ever will. And how she is still going to commit herself to being a lawyer, but you also got this. How's that going to work out? And Tatiana Maslany plays her with just the right amount of fun because Jennifer is a very fun character. She is smart. She is well-educated, but she's also flippant. She can be a little bit of a party fiend every now and then. Not like as a massive character trait, well, depending on the time frame, but like that's part of her. That's part of what goes on. And I think so far she's doing a good job of capturing and balancing that. I am not super like stoked or exceptionally praising of this episode. This episode is fine. What it sort of tees up for the show to be moving forward, that is what I'm excited for. So honestly, the next episode or possibly the next two are really going to be much more setting my expectations for what the rest will be going forward. Because so far, like, this is a solid enough setup episode, but like that's all it is. And it's hard to judge the rest of the show by that, or, you know, even sort of preemptively fully get my gauge. But to what degree I am getting a sense of what's coming next, I'm still hopeful. Issues with the visuals aside. But what do you think of the first episode of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's what pays the bills and allows me to do this as my living and talk as regularly as I do with you folks about the things that I see and enjoy in this case, which it's always, I like talking about things I like. I really do. But even if you can't help with the Patreon, like, share, subscribe, they do help. Like, they honestly do. But that's okay if you don't want to do that either. Take a relaxed attitude around here so you can just come on back next time you need a break. Time to give my thanks to my highest supporting patrons. That would include Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Emu Delkey, Theotha Boyd, Becky Sparks, Fernabi Likes the Poodle, Zach, Idolin, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam RDL Taylor, Shane Ross, Shaylee Gourlay, Brendan LaRose, and TT. If you want your name said while these guys try and distract me, consider looking at the rewards of my Patreon.